On our 4th wedding anniversary, I held a pregnancy test report and waited until late at night. What I got instead was a phone call from my husband saying he was at another woman's place, staying with her. Later, I went to the hospital alone and terminated our pregnancy, and with it, my last shred of expectation for him. When everyone said I was too cold-hearted, only I knew this truth: some heartbreak isn't caused in a single day, but by being chosen last again and again. Today is the 4th anniversary of my marriage to David. I cooked his favorite dishes and lit candles. There were 2 gifts on the table. One was a new tie for him. The other was the pregnancy test report I had just received today. It read, intrauterine pregnancy. Approximately 6 weeks. After losing our first child, 3 years had passed before I finally became pregnant again. At 7 in the evening, the food had gone cold. David hadn't come home. At 8, the candles burned down to the wick. I called him. Hello? His voice was low, and in the background I could hear a woman crying. It's our anniversary. Did you forget? I remember. But Nora's condition is really bad. I'm dealing with an emergency. You eat first, don't wait for me. Nora. Her again. The female patient who claimed to have severe depression and borderline personality disorder. David was her psychologist. Over the past 6 months, her emergencies had become more and more frequent. Weekends, late nights, holidays. David's phone was on for her 24/7. He said it was professional ethics. From the other end of the line came Nora's hysterical sobbing. Doctor, I can't take it anymore. I want to die. David immediately said to me, I have to hang up. The patient needs me. David. I stopped him. I have something important too. We'll talk later. Don't make trouble. He hung up. I stared at the darkened screen and slowly lowered my phone. The chair across the table was empty. Candle wax dripped onto the tablecloth like tears frozen in place. 3 years ago, it was a night just like this. I was 8 weeks pregnant, bleeding, and I called him. He said he was in a seminar. I took a cab to the hospital alone. We lost the baby. He didn't arrive until after midnight. Held my hand, apologized, and promised he'd be there next time. There was no next time. I picked up the pregnancy report and read it again. Then I folded it once, folded it again, tore it into pieces, and threw them into the trash. There was no anger, no tears, just emptiness, like my heart had been scooped clean. I picked up my phone and searched painless abortion appointment. I found a well-reviewed private hospital and called. What's the earliest time I can have the procedure? Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Do you need a family member to accompany you? No. I'll be alone. All right. Please bring your ID. After hanging up, I stood up and cleared the table. I dumped the cold food into the trash, plates and all. The door lock clicked. David walked in, looking exhausted. You're still up? Nora had an emotional breakdown earlier. I stayed with her for crisis intervention. I'm exhausted. He loosened his tie, not even glancing at the table. Is there anything to eat? I threw it out. He frowned. What's wrong with you? I already told you Nora's situation is special. Let's get a divorce. David froze. He seemed not to have heard me. What? I said. Divorce. I looked at him. Tomorrow you can draft the agreement. Or I will. We split the assets fairly. I only want what's mine. He laughed, the kind of laugh that assumes I'm being unreasonable. Just because I came home late today? Fiona, can you be more mature? Nora is a patient with suicidal tendencies. I'm saving a life. And the price of saving a life? I asked calmly. Is sacrificing your wife and your unborn child? His expression stiffened. Child? I didn't answer. I turned and walked into the bedroom. Locking the door, he knocked outside. Explain yourself. What child? You're pregnant? I didn't open it. I leaned against the door, listening to his anxious voice. Before, I would have softened. Not anymore. My phone vibrated. A confirmation text from the hospital. I replied, received. I'll be there on time. Outside the door, David was still talking. Fiona, open the door. Let's talk. If this is about the baby, I apologize. But Nora really needs. I put my phone on silent and lay down on the bed. I closed my eyes. This time, I'm not waiting anymore. Early the next morning, David made breakfast. He sat across from me, dark circles under his eyes. Clearly he hadn't slept. I'm sorry about last night. he said, pushing the fried egg toward me. But Nora really was on the rooftop. If I hadn't gone, she might have jumped. You're my wife, you should understand how special my job is. I took a sip of milk. The baby, is that real? His voice softened. If it is, I promise I'll put the family first from now on. But Nora's treatment is at a critical stage. I can't just abandon her. Could you give me a little more time? How long? I asked. 3 months. No, 2 months. Once her emotions stabilize, I'll immediately transfer her case to another doctor. I swear. He sounded sincere. His eyes were gentle, pleading. Those were the same eyes that had deceived me again and again in the past. Okay, I said. David let out a sigh of relief and smiled. I knew you were understanding. I'll come home early tonight. We'll go out for Japanese food you like and celebrate. He leaned in to kiss me. I turned my face away. You're going to be late. He stood up awkwardly, grabbed his briefcase. Right. I have morning clinic hours. See you tonight. After the door closed, I walked to the window and watched him drive out of the complex. Then I picked up my bag and left. I knew where Nora lived. Half a year ago, David had gone to her place for a necessary home visit. When he came back, he casually mentioned the address. I remembered it. The taxi stopped in front of a luxury apartment building. I paid and went upstairs. 16th floor, apartment 1603. I stood outside the door without ringing the bell. From inside came a woman's intermittent sobbing. Then David's voice, very close, just behind the door. I understand your sense of emptiness, but hurting yourself isn't the solution, doctor. I just can't control it. Every time you leave, I feel like I've been abandoned by the whole world. Nora said through tears. Am I awful? Do I not deserve to be loved? You deserve to be loved, David said, in a tenderness I had never heard before. But you have to love yourself first. But how do I love myself? I can't even maintain a normal life. Doctor, only in front of you do I feel like I'm truly alive. There was a few seconds of silence. David said, I'm your doctor. My responsibility is to help you. But there are boundaries we can't cross. I know. Nora's crying grew louder. I'm sorry. I'm always relying on you like this, but I can't help it. After my parents divorced, no one really cared about me. You were the first person to be so patient with me. Nora, listen to me. You've made progress. You just need time. But I need you right now. She pleaded. Doctor, please don't go. Just today. Don't go. Okay? I promise. Just today. I stood outside the door. My hand pressed against the cold metal. My heartbeat slowed, like falling into an ice cellar. I think back to 3 years ago, the day I miscarried. David was at a conference. I called him 12 times. When he finally picked up, he said, Fiona, I'm busy. I'll call you back later. Back then, Nora hadn't even appeared yet. But the same pattern had already started. His patience, his responsibilities, always ahead of me. The first time was our first wedding anniversary. He stood me up because a teenage patient had a self-harm incident. The second time was when my dad was hospitalized with a heart condition. David promised to stay the night with me, but left at dawn because of a patient's emergency consultation. The third time was the miscarriage. Every time, he apologized. Every time, he promised next time will be different. But there was no next time. Inside the apartment, Nora was still crying. David was soothing her, his voice low and gentle, like he was coaxing a child. I heard him say, All right, I won't leave today. I'll stay with you until your emotions stabilize. Then there was a rustling sound, like the sound of an embrace. I took a step back. No anger, no breakdown. Instead, an eerie clarity. I took out my phone, turned on the recorder, and pressed it against the door. Nora said, Doctor, I know you have a family, but are things bad between you and your wife? Otherwise, why are you always willing to stay with me? David was silent. You don't have to answer. She continued softly. I'm just really envious of her. She gets to see you every day. Nora, this topic isn't appropriate. I'm sorry. I crossed the line again. I just keep thinking, if one day I get better, if I'm worthy of being loved, you will get better. David said firmly, I'll help you. I stopped the recording, saved the file, turned and left. In the elevator, I looked at my reflection in the mirrored wall. Pale, calm. So this is what it feels like when your heart dies. It doesn't hurt. It's empty. It's finally understanding that the person you loved made his choice a long time ago, and you were never on his side. The elevator reached the first floor. I walked out into blinding sunlight. My phone rang. A message from David. Something came up tonight. I can't have dinner with you. Nora's emotionally unstable again. I need to stay. Try to understand. Okay? I looked at the message and replied with 3 words, it's okay. Then I deleted the chat history and blocked his number. I got a cab and went straight to a law firm. The lawyer's last name was Parker. A sharp, efficient middle-aged woman. I played her the recording and told her everything. After listening, she adjusted her glasses. Mrs. David, legally speaking, this recording alone doesn't directly prove an affair. However, combined with your husband's frequent late-night companionship, emotional boundary violations, and long-term neglect of you and the family, it can be used as evidence of irretrievable breakdown of the marriage in a divorce case. Especially if you can show psychological abuse or domestic violence. He'll be home late tonight, I said. Most likely at Nora's place. I can bring people and go there. MS. Parker raised an eyebrow. You mean, catching him in the act? No, I said calmly. Reporting illegal medical practice and suspected endangerment of personal safety. Nora has suicidal tendencies. Right? A psychologist conducting late-night treatment alone with a female patient at a non-medical location. Is that compliant? MS. Parker smiled. Smart. That's an industry violation. If the scene looks abnormal, you can even call the police. Then let's call the police. At 10 that night, I arrived downstairs at Nora's apartment building with Ms. Parker, 2 female friends, and a women's advocacy worker I had contacted. Ms. Parker had already coordinated with the local police station. 2 officers arrived shortly after. What's going on? One officer asked. My husband is a psychologist, I said evenly. He's currently inside apartment 1603 with his female patient. She has severe suicidal tendencies. I'm concerned about an accident and am requesting your assistance. The officers exchanged a glance and nodded. We went upstairs together. I knocked. Inside, everything went quiet. Who is it? Nora's voice sounded tense. Property management, someone said. There's a report of a water leak downstairs. We need to check. The door opened a crack. Nora was wearing a silk robe, her hair loose. When she saw me, her face drained of color. I pushed the door open. In the living room, David was sitting on the couch. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar. His tie loosened. On the coffee table were a bottle of red wine and 2 glasses. When he saw me, and the people behind me, he jumped to his feet. Fiona? What is the meaning of this? The officers stepped in, scanning the room. What's going on here? Who's the patient? Nora immediately shrank behind David, clutching his arm, trembling. Doctor. I'm scared. David instinctively shielded her and said to the officers. I'm Dr. David. This is my patient, Nora. We're conducting psychological counseling. May I ask what this is about? Psychological counseling needs to be conducted alone at a patient's home late at night? The women's advocacy worker spoke up. And you're drinking alcohol? This is to help relieve her anxiety. David raised his voice. You're trespassing illegally. We received a report concerning personal safety, an officer said sternly. We're conducting a lawful check. Please show your medical license and the patient's records. David's face turned dark as he went to grab his briefcase. Suddenly, Nora broke down completely, collapsed to the floor, and sobbed. It's all my fault. I begged the doctor to stay. Don't blame him. If you're going to arrest someone, arrest me. She started banging her head against the floor. David rushed over and held her tightly. Nora, calm down. Breathe. The scene descended into chaos. The officers tried to separate them. David clung to Nora and yelled at me. Fiona, what exactly do you want? Do you have to drive her to death to be satisfied? I looked at his face, twisted with rage. So unfamiliar. The women's advocacy worker quietly asked me, Is your husband usually like this with you? This is the first time, I said, that he's acted like this in front of other people. She wrote it down. Nora was still crying. David held her like she was something fragile and priceless. He looked up at me, his eyes full of disgust. Are you happy now? You ruined my professional reputation. You ruined Nora's treatment. Are you satisfied? How did you become so vicious? Vicious. In 4 years of marriage, it was the first time he had ever used that word on me. I stepped forward. David thought I was going to hurt Nora and suddenly raised his hand. A slap landed hard across my face. White-hot pain exploded. I slammed into the wall, my ears ringing. Everyone froze. David froze too, staring at his own hand, panic flashing across his face. I didn't mean to. The officers immediately stepped in and restrained him. What are you doing? Hitting someone in front of the police? Nora was stunned, shrinking against the couch. I slowly straightened up and wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. I looked at David and said, word by word, David, I want a divorce. His face went deathly pale. Fiona, I was just too emotional. It's not just now. I said calmly. It's now. Immediately. This very moment. I won't live like this for another single day. The women's advocacy worker supported me and said to the officers, the facts of domestic violence are clear. We recommend filing a case. David panicked. It's not domestic violence. It was a misunderstanding. Fiona, let's go home and talk. I'm not going home. I turned and walked out. Ms. Parker will contact you about the divorce agreement. Starting tonight. I'm staying at a hotel. If you dare come looking for me, I'll apply for a restraining order. As I walked out, I heard Nora sobbing inside the apartment. Doctor, I'm sorry, this is all my fault, David shouted back at her. Shut up! Then came the sound of something smashing. The elevator doors closed. The world went quiet. My friend Amy looked at my swollen, red face with pain in her eyes. Does it hurt? No, I said. I stayed at the hotel for 3 days. David sent dozens of messages, ranging from anger to begging. I didn't reply to a single one. On the 4th day, he relayed a message through Ms. Parker. He agreed to an uncontested divorce. Assets split evenly, but he wanted to meet once and talk. I agreed. We met at the cafe we used to go to often. He arrived early, dark circles under his eyes, stubble all over his face. When he saw me, his eyes reddened. Fiona, I sat down and slid the divorce agreement across the table. Sign it. He didn't look at the papers. Instead, he dropped to his knees. People around us turned to stare. I know I was wrong, he said hoarsely. I lost control that day. I deserved to die for that. But Nora was emotionally collapsing. I was afraid something would happen to her. That's why Fiona, hit me, yell at me, anything. Just don't divorce me. We still have a child, don't we? I looked at him kneeling there. Once, I would have softened. Now, I just found it ridiculous. The baby's gone, I said. He froze. What? I had the procedure. Terminated it, I said calmly. That afternoon when you were drinking red wine with Nora. David's expression shattered inch by inch, like glass smashed by a hammer. How could you? His lips trembled. That was our child. How could you do it without talking to me, talk to you? I cut him off. Would you have agreed? You would have said, Nora needs me. We can have another child later. His mouth opened, but no words came out. David, the #1 priority in your heart is your patience, your professional ethics, your career halo, I said, lifting my coffee and taking a sip. Your wife and child were always expendable options. Now the options are gone. Sign it. He stayed kneeling, tears falling. I really know I was wrong. Give me one more chance. I'll cut off all contact with Nora immediately, transfer all her cases. We'll start over, okay? People at nearby tables were whispering. A server came over awkwardly. Sir, do you need help? David ignored him, staring only at me. These 4 years. Haven't I treated you well? The house is in your name. You could spend money however you wanted. Whatever you asked for. Didn't I give it to you? Just because of one patient, you want to destroy this family? The way you treated me was like keeping a pet. I said calmly. You provided food and shelter, but never respected my feelings. I'm not your dog, David. His face went paper white. His phone rang. He glanced at it. It was Nora calling. He rejected it. It rang again. He rejected it again. The 3rd time. He answered impatiently. What is it now? From the other end came Nora's piercing sobs. Faintly, I could hear her saying, "Doctor." I took pills, a lot of pills. David shot to his feet. "Wait there. I'm coming right now." He hung up and looked at me, torn. "Nora overdosed. I have to go save her." "Go," I said. He froze. "Isn't that what you always choose?" I took out a pen, signed my name on the agreement, and pushed it toward him. "Sign it, and you're free. Save whoever you want." David stared at the agreement, then at his phone, veins bulging on his forehead. The phone rang again. He answered, listened for a few seconds, then shouted, "Call an ambulance. I'm on my way." He looked at me, almost begging. "Fiona, this is a matter of life and death. Can I sign first to reassure you, and after I deal with Nora? We'll talk properly?" "Yes," I said. He let out a breath of relief and hurriedly signed his name, his handwriting messy and rushed. Thank you for understanding," he said, grabbing his coat. "I'll come find you later." He rushed out and flagged down a taxi. I stayed seated, watching the direction he disappeared in. Then I picked up the agreement and checked the signatures. Everything was in order. Ms. Parker walked over from the next table and sat down. "You really let him go?" "What else?" I put the agreement away. "He's never chosen me. Not today. Not ever." "Then why did you let him sign?" "Because he thinks this was just to reassure me." I smiled faintly. "He doesn't know that once the signatures are down, the agreement takes effect. Next comes the cooling-off period. 30 days later, we finalize it." Ms. Parker raised an eyebrow. "You're not afraid he'll regret it?" "He won't," I said. "Nora's condition will get worse. He'll be even busier. By the time he remembers the divorce, the cooling-off period will be over." The server came to clear the cups. As I handed mine over, I accidentally brushed his hand. He looked down and noticed the bruise on my wrist, the one left from being slammed into the wall. "Do you need help?" he asked quietly. "No," I said, standing up. "It's already over." Outside the cafe, the sunlight was perfect. I took out my phone, unblocked David's number, and sent him a message. "The agreement is signed. The 30-day cooling-off period starts today. Please do not contact me during this time. After that, we'll meet at the Civil Affairs office." He replied instantly, "Okay. Once I've handled Nora's situation, we'll talk properly. I love you." I glanced at it and deleted the message. On the day of the procedure, I went alone, lying on the operating table. The lights were blinding. The doctor asked, "Are you sure you don't need a family member with you?" "No." As the anesthesia flowed into my veins and my consciousness blurred, I thought of the miscarriage 3 years ago. That day, I was also alone. But back then, I was still waiting for David to come, to feel sorry for me, to hold me and say I'm sorry. This time, I wasn't waiting. When I woke up, the nurse helped me out of bed. "Rest for half an hour. If there's no problem, you can leave. Remember to take your meds on time and avoid cold water." I sat in the recovery area, drinking warm water. My lower abdomen ached faintly, but it was bearable. My phone vibrated. A message from David. "Nora had her stomach pumped. She's stable now. Are you at home? I want to talk to you tonight." I didn't reply. Half an hour later, I stood up and left. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped inside. On the way down, the elevator stopped at the 3rd floor. The doors opened. David and Nora were standing outside. He was supporting her. She was pale, leaning against his shoulder. They both froze. David reacted first, instinctively asking, "Fiona, why are you at the hospital? Are you not feeling well?" I didn't answer. I just looked at them. Nora immediately shrank into his arms and whispered, "Doctor, I'm scared." David immediately stepped back, putting distance between us, as if I were a virus. "I'm accompanying Nora for some tests," he explained awkwardly. "What about you?" I pressed the button for the 1st floor. The elevator doors slowly closed. Through the crack of the door, I saw David's confused face and Nora's triumphant expression in his arms. The elevator kept descending. My phone vibrated again. A message from David. "You don't look well. Are you sick? Should I come over?" I looked at this belated concern and smiled. He hadn't even asked what floor I was on. He didn't know I'd just come from the operating room. He would never know. I replied, no need. Focus on your work. And blocked him again. Back at home, I started packing. I had a small apartment from before the marriage, long unused. Now it came in handy. Clothes, books, daily necessities. Not much of mine, an afternoon was enough. Finally, I took the wedding photo from the nightstand and threw it into the trash. That evening, when David came back, all my personal belongings were gone. He stood in the half-empty bedroom, stunned for a long time. He called. I answered. You moved out? Yes. Why didn't you say anything? No need. Silence. Heavy breathing. Fiona, do we really have to do this? Nora almost died today. Can't you show some understanding? I have. I said. For years. That's long enough. Then the divorce agreement, can we hold off a bit? With Nora like this, I really don't have the energy to deal, no. I cut him off. 30 days from now. Civil Affairs Office. If you don't show up, I'll file a suit. I hung up. He called again. I didn't answer. The next day, I changed my phone number, only telling MS, Parker and a few friends. The world went quiet. During the second week of the cooling-off period, Nora started posting on social media frequently, photos of her with David by the beach. She wore a long dress, smiling brightly. Caption, thank you for staying with me, bringing back my sunshine. Location, Sonia. That was where we had our honeymoon. The next day, a photo of David tying her shoelaces. Caption, it feels amazing to be pampered. The following day, a seafood market. David selecting lobsters. She took a side profile shot. Caption, he said he'll make me his signature garlic-steamed lobster. The one dish he knew how to cook. I had taught him. Mutual friends sent me the screenshots. Fiona, this is too much. You're not even divorced yet. I said, soon. Her posts continued. Day 5, they were diving. Day 6, watching the sunset on the beach. David occasionally texted me. With a formulaic tone, I'm on a business trip, handling patient rehab and care. 25 days left of the cooling-off period. I hope you'll consider rationally. I replied, okay. He probably thought I'd softened. He didn't know I looked at those photos without a flicker of emotion. Only my insomnia worsened. I stayed awake all night, eyes open until dawn. Amy came to see me, furious, throwing her phone on the couch. Scumbag. Lowlife. And you just put up with it? I'm not putting up with it. I said. I'm waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for their performance to get a little more convincing. During the third week of the cooling-off period, I hired a fitness coach to start retraining my body. I was weak after the miscarriage, but the weaker I felt, the more I needed movement. 1 hour a day. No exceptions. At the same time, I contacted headhunters about job opportunities. I had been a graphic designer before the marriage. After we wed, David told me, I'll take care of you, and I quit. Now I was picking it up again. In the 4th week, I contacted a real estate agent to list my small apartment for sale. I also started scouting for a storefront. I wanted to open a bakery. I'd always loved baking. David had said, just a hobby. Don't take it seriously. Now, I would take it seriously. In the last 3 days of the cooling-off period, David finally sent a message. I'm returning tomorrow. Meet at the Civil Affairs Office at 9 a.m. The day after. Nora's condition has improved. We can talk properly then. I replied, okay. On the day of the divorce, I arrived at the Civil Affairs Office at 8 a.m. David didn't show. At 9, still no sign of him. At 9:30, I called. It rang a long time before he answered. Background noise, ocean waves. Fiona? Sorry. Nora had emotional fluctuations this morning. We rescheduled our flight. Can we postpone the divorce? I said calmly, no. It has to happen today. Why are you so stubborn? Just one more day. Yes. I said. If not today, I'll file a suit. The judge will see your social media with your female patient on vacation. Your long history of staying out late. The police report for domestic violence. You choose. David fell silent. After a moment, his voice turned cold. You're threatening me? Just informing you. Fine. He gritted his teeth. I'll have my assistant send my documents to handle it. Will that work? Yes. At 10 a.m., a stranger hurried in, handing over David's ID. household registration book, marriage certificate, and a power of attorney form. The staff verified everything and asked me, the husband authorizes someone else to handle this. Do you agree? I agree. Then sign here. I signed. The staff printed the divorce certificate and stamped it. The red booklet became green. The whole process took less than 20 minutes. The assistant took David's copy and left. I sat on a bench, staring at the green booklet in my hands. No sadness. No sense of relief. Just peace. Like finally finishing a long, exhausting journey. I placed the certificate into a prepared document box. Inside were 3 things: fragments of the pregnancy test report, a copy of the surgical record, and all the screenshots of David and Nora from social media, printed. I packed it up, sealed it. On the shipping label, Dr. David. Address, his hospital. I put my own phone number as the contact and sent it. Then I took a taxi to the airport, a pre-booked flight to a southern island. 1 week of vacation. Before boarding, I turned off my phone. As the plane took off, I thought, David must have received the package by now. I wondered what expression he'd have when he opened it. David didn't open it until 3 days later. He had just finished a lecture and returned to his office. A nurse told him there was a package on his desk. He assumed it was from Nora. She had been sending little gifts like this recently. When he opened the box, he first saw the divorce certificate. He paused, frowning. Why was this sent here? Then he picked up the stack of papers underneath, the pregnancy report fragments, carefully taped back together, the copy of the surgical record with clear dates, and all the social media screenshots, each with Nora's captions and his side profile. David's hands began to shake. He flipped to the surgical record, repeatedly checking the dates. Then he grabbed his phone and scrolled through his call logs furiously. That afternoon, he had called me. I didn't answer. He bought seafood for Nora, made garlic-steamed lobster. She laughed. Happy. Doctor, you're so good. At the same time, I was in the operating room, ending our child's life. No, he muttered, collapsing into a chair. His phone rang. It was Nora. He stared at the screen, eyes vacant. The ringtone stopped, then rang again, this time the hospital's landline. He answered. Professor Lin, his mentor, was on the line. David, come to my office. There's a problem with Nora's records. David didn't move. David, are you there? Yes. He croaked. On my way. He stood, legs trembling, bracing himself on the desk. He looked down at the box of papers, suddenly grabbed the divorce certificate, and tore it in half, then froze. Tearing it didn't matter. Legally, he was already divorced. He thought it was just a reassurance, just a temporary signature. He thought I would still wait. His phone buzzed again. This time, a mutual friend, Ethan, texted, David, are you even human? Fiona had a miscarriage and you didn't even know? And you're out gallivanting with your mistress? David shouted back, mind your own business. This is my private matter. Private? Fiona is my sister now. I'm telling you. Everyone knows what you've been up to. Traveling with a patient. Posting PDA on social media. Are you blind? Your professional ethics as a psychologist thrown in the trash? Nora needs rehab. It's part of treatment. Treatment requires tying shoelaces? Watching sunsets? Saying, I'll never leave you? David, we've known each other 10 years. I always thought you were a good doctor. A good husband. Now I see, you're just a selfish hypocrite. Fiona put up with you for 4 years. Enough. Don't you dare contact her again, or I swear I'll hit you every time I see you. The call ended. David stood frozen, ice running through his body. Someone knocked on the office door. A nurse peeked in. Dr. David, Professor Lin is asking for you. Fine. He walked mechanically toward the office, still clutching the torn divorce certificate. In the corridor, he passed colleagues. Their eyes darted away. They nodded quickly and walked on. Professor Lin's office was tense. On the desk lay Nora's case file and a stack of the latest assessment reports. Sit. Professor Lin, in his 60s. Eyes sharp. David sat, palms sweating. I've reviewed Nora's case again, Lin said, pushing up his glasses. From the initial complaint, severe depression, borderline personality disorder, suicidal tendencies, to your 6 months of treatment, I've noticed several issues. David's throat went dry. What issues? First, Her symptom descriptions match textbook performances remarkably closely. Lynn pointed to the notes. Every breakdown happens just as your session is ending. Every suicidal behavior occurs just when you can intervene. Too convenient. Second, these are the recent psychological test results. Lynn handed him a few sheets. Scores show her depression and anxiety are within normal range. But there's clear exaggeration during testing. David froze. Impossible. I've seen her cut her wrists myself. The cuts were shallow, avoiding major vessels. Lynn said calmly. The ER doctor noted suspected self-harm. Non-lethal. Did you miss that? David's mind buzzed. He had seen it. But Nora cried. I just don't have the courage to die. And he believed her. Third, and most critical, Lynn leaned in. I contacted her previous 2 therapists. The first noted Nora had strong transference tendencies and was referred onward. The second said she attempted to seduce him. Treatment was terminated. Were you aware of this history? David couldn't speak. Nora had told him the previous therapists were unprofessional and hurt her. He had believed her. David, you're a good doctor, but too kind-hearted. Lynn sighed. This patient may have Munchausen syndrome. She enjoys the attention and care her illness brings. Especially from you. No, that's impossible, David murmured. She was in so much pain. The pain is real. But its source isn't illness, it's a desperate need for dependency. Lynn said sternly. And you, as her doctor, didn't maintain professional distance. You became deeply entangled, late-night alone sessions, accompanying her on trips, emotional responses, all serious violations of professional ethics. David's face turned pale. The hospital has already received an anonymous report regarding improper relations with a patient. Lynn pushed a letter toward him. Also, you issued her an emotional instability certificate for disputes with colleagues. That certificate relied solely on her statements, without third-party verification, correct? David nodded, hands trembling. If she exaggerated or fabricated her account, your certificate is perjury, Lynn said slowly, deliberately. David, this could destroy your career. The office was terrifyingly silent. David recalled countless details. Every time Nora collapsed, she leaned weakly on him, saying, only you can calm me. She secretly photographed him, set his image as her phone wallpaper, and when he discovered it, she cried, I just need strength. On their wedding anniversary, she called, Doctor, if you don't come, I'll jump. And he went, leaving his pregnant wife behind. Professor, David's voice was hoarse. I didn't know, now you know. Lynn stood. The hospital will form an investigation team. During this period, you are suspended from all clinics and consultations. Cooperate fully. David got up, legs weak, and sat back down. One more thing, Lynn said, heading to the door and looking back. You're divorced, right? David's head snapped up. The package just arrived here while you weren't in your office. Lynn pointed to the corner. Take that box with you. David looked. The same document box. A sticky note on top. In my handwriting, to Professor Lynn, Dr. David may be busy with treatment and unable to receive this. Kindly forward. Thank you. Polite, calm, crushing. David grabbed the box, staggering down the hall. The corridor seemed endless. Every step felt like walking on knives. Passing the nurse station, a few nurses whispered. They went silent when he approached. Their eyes held pity, contempt, and curiosity. He got into the elevator, pressed the basement button. In the mirrored elevator, his face was ghostly white. His phone vibrated. It was Nora. Doctor, when will you come see me? I'm feeling bad again. David stared at the screen, then suddenly laughed. A laugh with tears in it. He hung up and blocked her. Then he crouched in the elevator corner, clutching the box like it was his own gravestone. David didn't go home. He went to a bar and drank until dawn. The next day, he went straight to Nora's place. She opened the door in a silky nightgown, smiling sweetly. Doctor, you came. David pushed past her into the living room. Delete all chat logs, photos, recordings, everything. Now. His voice was hoarse. Nora froze. What? You heard me. David stared at her. You're not sick, are you? You've been acting, manipulating my sympathy, drawing me in step by step. Her face changed. Doctor, how can you say that? I was in so much pain enough to have time to edit photos and post them on social media? David sneered. Pain enough to remember every caption? Nora, my mentor reevaluated your case. Munchausen syndrome, ever heard of it? She took a step back, eyes flickering. Your first 2 therapists weren't unprofessional, they saw through you. David pressed. You came to me because I was the youngest, the kindest, easiest to trust, right? No, that's not. Nora's tears fell. I really needed you. Needed me to destroy my marriage? My career? David shouted. Needed me to issue false certificates? To help you evade work responsibilities? Needed me to perform with you? Feed your poor patient fantasy? Nora stopped crying. She wiped her tears, expression slowly hardening. So what? She smiled. Dr. David, you chose this. I begged you to stay, you stayed. I said I wanted to die, you left your wife for me. I posted on social media, you didn't stop me. You've been enjoying being needed, haven't you? David froze. Your wife was pregnant. You didn't even know? Nora tilted her head. We ran into her at the hospital the day she had surgery. Her face looked awful. Not a single word from you. You only worried about not being misunderstood by me. Pathetic. David's fists clenched. Now you want to ditch me? Nora stepped forward, poking him in the chest. Too late. I backed up every single treatment record from the past 6 months. Your late-night gentle words at my place. Photos of you hugging me. The fake certificates you issued. If the hospital investigation team gets these, you tell me. Will your license survive? David's breathing quickened. So, Dr. David. Nora smiled, venomous as a snake flicking its tongue. Be a good boy. Keep playing my savior. I'm in a good mood, I'll keep this quiet. Otherwise, we both go down. David stared at her triumphant face. He felt nauseated. At her. At himself. He nodded. Fine. Nora smiled in satisfaction. That's better. Dinner with me tonight? I want Japanese food. I have plans tonight. David turned. Tomorrow. He left without looking back. Downstairs. In the car. He didn't start the engine. He pulled out his phone and called Professor Lin. Professor, I'm reporting myself. Silence on the line. I've seriously violated boundaries with patient Nora. I issued false certificates. I accept any investigation and disciplinary actions from the hospital. At the same time, I request a forensic psychiatric evaluation of Nora. I suspect she's faking illness, manipulating and blackmailing me emotionally. His voice was calm. Professor Lin spoke after a long pause. Are you sure? This could permanently end your medical career. I've made up my mind, David said. I deserve it. He hung up, slumping over the steering wheel, shoulders trembling, but there were no tears. They had all dried up long ago. His phone lit up, bank notification. Mortgage payment failed. The joint card I had long deactivated. He stared at the message, suddenly recalling 4 years ago, when we bought our first home. I had smiled. This will be our home. He had said, I'll make you happy for life. I stayed on the island for 7 days. Every day I woke naturally, soaked up the sun, read books, learned to surf. My skin tanned slightly, and my spirits lifted. On the last day, I was sketching at a seaside cafe, distant sailboats, clouds in watercolor. A shadow fell across my paper. I looked up. David, much thinner, unshaven, white shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. Fiona, his voice hoarse. I finally found you. I put down my pen. Yes. What is it? I want to talk. The divorce is final. Nothing to talk about. Not about the divorce, he said with difficulty. About apologizing for everything I did wrong. I looked at him, silent. He sat down, hands clenched, knuckles white. I know about Nora. She isn't sick. She was using me. My mentor told me. The hospital is investigating. I may never be able to practice again. I nodded. Oh. His eyes reddened. Do you hate me? No. I said. Hate requires emotion. I have none for you. He slumped like the air had been sucked out of him. About the child. I really regret it. His voice broke. If I had stayed that day. If I hadn't answered Nora's call. No ifs. I cut him off. David, you chose Nora, not by accident. You needed that feeling of being needed. A fragile person, completely dependent on you, worshipping you, letting you feel like a savior. I was too independent, didn't need saving. That's why you found no satisfaction in our marriage. He stared, stunned. You never loved me, nor Nora. I continued. You loved the power of being a psychologist, patients giving you their most vulnerable selves, you controlling their emotions, their lives, their deaths. That control made you addicted. David's lips trembled. He couldn't speak. Nora saw through this. She acted it out for you. Extreme vulnerability, absolute dependence. You knew the boundaries were wrong, yet you fell in anyway. That feeling was too seductive. I sipped juice. So don't blame her entirely. You were both conspirators. The sea breeze blew through, tousling his hair. I truly know I was wrong. Tears fell. Can I have one more chance? I won't be a doctor. I'll do anything. We leave this city. Start over, David. I said his name. He looked up, eyes holding a final flicker of hope. We're already divorced. I said. Legally, we have no ties. Emotionally, we stopped long ago. Even if you kneel and beg, I won't turn back. Hope extinguished. He slumped in the chair, completely drained. Then, can you forgive me? He asked in a whisper. Even just a little? No. My voice was steady. You made me lose 2 children. You made me invisible for 4 years of marriage. Every time I needed you most, you weren't there. I won't forgive you, but I don't hate you either. It's like stepping in dog shit on the street. I don't hate the shit. I just walk around it. And you're that pile of dog shit. His face went chalk white. I stood, picked up my sketchbook. Don't come to me again. I don't want to see you. Fiona! He shot up and grabbed my wrist. I have nothing left. My job, my reputation, my family. You're all I have. I pulled my hand back and looked at him. That's your problem, not mine. I turned and walked away. Behind me, he shouted, I really love you. I always have. I didn't look back. After returning to the city, I threw myself into preparing for the bakery. The shop was rented, on a quiet street. Simple decor, white walls and warm yellow lights. I named it Rebirth Bakery. On the first day of trial operation, Amy and a few friends came to support me. The place was full of laughter. In the afternoon, the glass door opened, and 2 officers in uniform stepped inside. Are you MS? Fiona? I nodded. Yes. We're from the Financial Investigation Unit, one said, showing his badge. Regarding David's suspected issuance of fraudulent medical certificates and participation in insurance fraud, we need your assistance for a few questions. I invited them to sit and poured tea. You're divorced, correct? Correct. Before the divorce, did you notice signs of inappropriate behavior between David and his patient, Nora? I did. I have recordings and photos. I submitted them to the police before. The officer took notes. We've retrieved the recording. Nora is also under investigation for insurance fraud and falsifying her medical condition. She confessed that David knowingly exaggerated her symptoms to help her obtain high compensation and extended medical leave. I listened quietly. With the evidence chain we have, David may face license revocation, administrative penalties, and possibly criminal charges. The officer looked up. As his ex-wife, do you have anything to add? I thought for a moment. He probably didn't do it for money. Mostly, emotional entanglement. The officer nodded. We're aware, but legally, only the consequences matter. They asked a few more questions, then stood. Thank you for cooperating. If anything new arises, please contact us. I walked them out. Back at the counter, Amy looked at me nervously. You okay? I'm fine. I smiled. Really fine. And I truly was. He was finally paying the price for his choices. A week later, Professor Lin called me. David was taken in today. A formal case has been filed. He sighed. What a pity, he had potential. Not a pity, I said. He chose his path. Silence for a moment. You're still young. Live well. I will. After hanging up, I went back to baking. The oven filled the shop with a warm, sweet scent. A month later, a local news alert popped up. Psychologist David W. has been arrested on charges of perjury and insurance fraud. Patient Nora L., diagnosed with Munchausen syndrome, has been involuntarily committed. Reports say Nora is pregnant. The child's father is unknown. I didn't open it. Amy shoved her phone at me. Nora's pregnant. Do you think it's David's? Does it matter? I wiped the counter. Either way, his life is over. True. Amy snorted. Serves him right. Later, I heard Nora threw a fit in the hospital, claiming the baby was David's and threatening him to get back together. David denied it. Demanded a paternity test. The results weren't out yet, but public opinion had already crushed him. The hospital issued a statement terminating his contract. The Psychological Association revoked his license permanently. The media interviewed former patients. Some claimed he over-involved himself and crossed boundaries. The halo he once wore shattered completely. I didn't attend the trial. Amy did. She came back and told me David was so thin he looked distorted. Head down the entire time. He was sentenced to 3 years, with 4 years probation, fined, and permanently banned from practicing medicine. After the verdict, he turned to look at the audience. The seats were empty. I wasn't there. He smiled, a broken, miserable smile. Then he was taken away. That night, I closed the shop early and walked home alone. Past the park we used to visit, a homeless man slept on the bench, wrapped in a torn blanket. I watched for a moment, then moved on. Business at the bakery grew gradually. Some customers loved my durian milk crepe. Some adored the molten chocolate cake. Regulars brought new faces. Word spread. 3 months later, I hired a young girl as an assistant, freshly graduated, always smiling, calling me Sister Fiona. 6 months later, I sold the marital home. David signed willingly. He needed money to pay the fines. Half the payment went to him, half to me, along with my savings. I bought a small 2-bedroom apartment 10 minutes walk from the bakery. On moving day, Amy helped me. We cooked hot pot in the new place, sweating and laughing. So you're really living alone from now on? She asked. Being alone is good, I said. Peaceful. Not planning to date? Let it happen, I said, dipping beef into the broth. No need to force anything. She smiled. Your eyes look different now. Before, there was always a layer of fog. Now they're clear. Really? I walked to the mirror. Yes. My face looked healthy. My eyes bright. No more furrowed brows. No more downcast gaze. I smiled at myself. The woman in the mirror smiled back. Another year passed. The bakery became a small online sensation. People queued on weekends. I opened a second branch and hired a manager. I stopped working full-time, spent more days learning floral arranging, pottery, traveling. David disappeared completely. Rumors said he moved to a small northern town, working as an office clerk. No one talked about him anymore. Nora gave birth. The paternity test wasn't David's. She remained in the hospital, symptoms fluctuating, but no one cared. The world was big, big enough to contain pain, and forget it. Today I closed the shop early, locked the door and walked slowly down the street. Streetlights glowed warm yellow one by one. A stray cat followed at my feet, meowing, thin, but bright-eyed. I crouched and stroked its head. It rubbed against my palm, then climbed into my arms. I held it as I walked. A breeze drifted by, cool early autumn air, carrying a faint fragrance of osmanthus. My phone buzzed. A message from the branch manager, Fiona. Today's sales hit another record. Customers love your new black tea cake. I replied with a smiley face, then looked up at the night sky. Not many stars, but bright. The cat in my arms yawned, warm and soft, then fell asleep. I laughed quietly. Happiness, it turns out, is this simple. Freedom, passion, a quiet night, a small warm life in my arms. No more proving anything to anyone. No more waiting for someone to come back. I am myself, and I live as my own light.